Hello everyone, good to see you again. As in my previous video, I had shown you how I made my heat treat oven, and as I promised, I am making this video to show you the details of how to wire the PID controller, as it is not difficult at all. I hope that my instruction in this video will help you to understand clearly how PID controller works and how simple it is to wire. As you can see on the screen, I have all the parts that I used to build my oven in the last video. We have one PID controller, one solid relay, one heating element coil that we made, one thermocouple, one automatic circuit breaker, one alarm bell, one on-off switch for the heating element itself, and at last, one high capacity plug. On the side of the PID controller, there is a diagram which shows you exactly how to wire these parts. So to wire those, at first, from the power source, which I represent here as the plug, we then connect it to the automatic circuit breaker. It doesn't matter which cable to wire, as it is alternating current. But in this case, I use yellow for the positive and blue for the negative, just to clarify and to make it easier to follow later. Now we need to provide the power for the controller to run. This PID runs on 85 to 265 voltage alternative current. In my case, my power source is 220 volts. So according to the PID diagram, I need to wire it to number 8 and to number 9. Again, it doesn't require exact which cable line is positive or which one is negative here, but let's say number 8 is for positive and number 9 is for negative. Next thing is to power the heating element. We then wire the negative from the power source to the negative of the heating element. But on the way, I added the on and off switch, because if without the on-off switch, when I turn the PID controller on, the element will then immediately heating up too. But I want the PID controller to have a decent time to start up and to measure the room temperature first. Therefore, the switch here is convenient to turn on the heating element when I feel ready. This is optional though, depends on your preference. And to connect the positive line from the power source to the heating element, we run the wire through the solid relay, as the relay will act like an on-off switch for this positive line, which then be automatically controlled by the PID. And to tell the PID to control the solid relay, we will look at number 10 and number 11. This does have positive line and negative line, which is indicated in the diagram. All we have to do is connect the positive line to the positive point on the solid relay and the negative line to the negative point on the solid relay. And that's it. Now your heating elements is ready to heat and to be controlled by the PID. Move on to thermocouple. It's very simple. We now look at number 5 and number 6. Number 6 has the positive sign on it, so number 5 is negative. All we need to do here is to connect the positive line from the thermocouple to number 6 and negative line from the thermocouple to number 5. Very simple, isn't it? The alarm is controlled by number 1 and number 2. But a small notice here is that number 1 and number 2 is acting as a switch, not as positive or negative source for the alarm. So we need to wire one positive line from the power source to the alarm, which in this case is number 8, and then we wired a short cable from number 9 to number 2 to provide negative power source to number 2 and 1. And of course, at last, all we need to do is to connect number 1 to negative line of the alarm, and that's it. We are completely wired the whole PID system for the heat treatment oven. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope my way of explanation is clear for you to follow and to understand. Please subscribe to support my channel if you like it. See you in the next video.